All right, shalom, friends. Rob Vanoff here with TelosTorah. I'm going to look at one single verse here from our Torah portion this week, which is Tissa, runs from Exodus 30, I think verse 10 or 11, through the end of chapter 34. I just want to look at one verse here, Exodus 32, verse 1. We'll read through it in Hebrew here, and we'll talk about it. If you have a Bible, you can grab it, or you can follow along with the NASB that I have here on the right. And let's do the Hebrew here. Vayar ha'am ki voshesh Moshe laredet min hahar. And the people, that is the saw that Moses tarried, laredet, to descend from the mountain. Laredet is the infinitive of yarad because it's a pei yod. The initial root letter is a yod. It has a different type of infinitive construct, redet, but the shoresh is yud resh dalet. Laredet min hahar, from the mountain. Vayikahel ha'am al Aharon, and the people gathered themselves, is a nifal, Vayikahel ha'am, and they gathered themselves around Aaron. It's almost like you could say they assembled before Aaron, but I think it's they like kind of surrounded him, is the way I think of it. Vayomru elav. Here, what's interesting is the twice has a singular verb. Vayar ha'am, so that's a singular from ra'ah. Vayikahel ha'am, and the people were gathered or assembled, also singular, against Aaron. And then we have a plural, Vayomru elav, and then they said to him. So all of a sudden the people become a multitude of voices, where up to now they were just acting in unison. They saw, singular, like he saw, he was gathered, and the he is the people. But here it's they. Vayomru elav, they said to him, Kum, get up. Kum, aselanu Elohim, make for us Elohim. Isn't this crazy? How do you make an Elohim? At the end of Hosea, it says, Lo nomar od Eloheinu l'maaseh yadenu. No longer will we say to the works, Maaseh yadenu, the work of our hands, Elohim. It seems crazy, doesn't it, at first glance? But, when you think about it, wow. There's only one true Elohim. There's God, the creator. Here, their idea is that Elohim is something that can be made. And they're telling Aharon, Kum, get up, you get up. Aseh, you make for us. So they're giving special power to Aharon, saying, make for us Elohim. Asher yelchu lefanav, who will go, and they will go before us. So the word Elohim is plural. Elohim, asher yelchu. Yelchu is plural. They will go before us. Ki ze Moshe ha'ish asher he'elanu me'eretz Mitzrayim lo yadanu mehayalo. Because this Moses, this is rare. Now I didn't do all my homework on this to see how often in Hebrew do we have this kind of phrase like this, Ki ze Moshe. Normally, in Hebrew, because ze is a demonstrative pronoun. So normally you say ha'ish hazeh, this man. You would say ha'ish hazeh. But here we have ze first. Ki ze Moshe, this Moses. I think this signals, in my hearing, a disdain for Moses. It's dismissive. It's this Moses. It is, it's like saying he's not so special. Moses thinks he's special. He thought he was special. Yeah, he thought he had a reputation around us. And he had us going for a while. This Moses, Kizeh Moshe, Ha'ish Asher He'elanu Me'eretz Mitzrayim, this man who brought us out of the Eretz Mitzrayim, land of Egypt, Lo Yadanu Mehayalo. We do not know what became of him. We do not know what happened to him. And this is what they're telling Aaron. Kum aseh lanu Elohim. Get up, make for us an Elohim who will, and that they, not who will, and they will go. They will go before us. Asher yelechu lefanenu. So the question is, if we're to guard the thoughts of our heart, and we know from Genesis, it says that every kol yetzer, right? Every yetzer, the mashchevot, libo, every inclination of the thoughts of his heart were only evil. Rak ra, kol hayom, all day long. How does this thought, where does this thought come from? If the human heart is a thought machine, where does this kind of thought come from? Let's review it again. Vayar ha'am ki voshesh Moshe laredet min hahar. The people saw that Moses had delayed in coming down the mountain. Well, that's a matter of perspective, isn't it? Moses was up there as long as he needed to be up there. There's no delay about it. Did Moses say, I'll be down in 10 days? And then they waited 30 extra days? They gave him an extra month? No. Moses said he'd go up, and then he said he'd come back. That's all they needed to know. Moses is up there he's not eating or drinking anything from this world. He's being nourished by the very presence of God, receiving wonderful revelation about this Mishkan, this Mikdash, this tabernacle, in which the very glory of the Lord will reside in the physical earth, in the world that is full of sin and death. And he's going to do it without compromising his holiness. Because he says, I will dwell in their midst. That's what Moses is doing. Moses is not, it's not like he had to stop by, the store and he got, stuck in the, bread aisle trying to figure out which loaf of bread to buy. And then he got distracted by something else, and then traffic was, bad. Like, there's no situation where Moses is delaying. So the perspective of this first line, Vayar ha'am, it's what they saw. And we see that it's not literal. It's not literal seeing. They don't see Moses. So this opening word here, the people saw, Vayar, it doesn't mean they saw it with their eyes. It means they evaluated with their heart. They made a judgment. They considered. They reckoned Moses as delaying. What does that mean? It means that they were impatient. And they say it at the very end of the verse, Lo yadanu mehayalo. We don't know. Yeah, that's the truth. That's if the whole Exodus 32:1 could be summarized in one word or one phrase, it's Lo Yadanu. The good old first year Hebrew or first introduction to verbs, right? A call. It's a first person plural, in the perfect. Lo yadanu. We didn't know. We don't know. That's the truest thing they've said. They should have just said that. They buried the lead to Aaron. If they wanted to talk to Aaron, they could go up to Aaron and say, Lo yadanu. We don't know about what happened to Moses. And what Aaron might say, yeah, we're waiting for him. We'll know when he gets here. Hold your horses. Wait. There's something in the human heart, though, that it's not going to wait. No, we're going to invent a God. We would rather make up a lie. We would rather entertain ourselves with something we know is our own invention and pretend it to be true. We'd rather occupy ourselves with fantasy in the name of truth and slap truth on it and call it Elohim, who will go before us, right? We'll sprinkle, and this is hijacking true religion. This is supersessionism. We'll take true things that Elohim brought Israel out of Egypt, not for their own sake, but for the sake of his promise to the patriarchs, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's why the Exodus matters. The Exodus doesn't matter because it's a wonderful story of slaves being freed. It is that, but that's not the core punchline. The core power of the fact of the Exodus is that it's God's faithfulness in history to his covenant, that he does not change, and that he knows the end from the beginning. That's what matters here. That's what matters here. And they're ready to entertain a lie, a falsehood. This is why the proverb throughout the Bible, we have to guard our hearts. We have to take every thought captive to Messiah. Why? Because the human heart wants to invent gods. Why? Because the human heart wants to be first, wants to be God. Doesn't want to wait. Doesn't like humility. Doesn't like truth. Who among them valued truth? You can't value truth and behave this way. And it's because they did not like not knowing. Lo yadanu. We just don't know. And guess what? The human heart doesn't like to say, I don't know. So we want to make something up. It's a big problem in this world, is people making stuff up when they don't really know. And instead of just cutting right to the chase and saying, you know what, I don't know. They don't want to do that. They want to perform. They want to whip up some sort of good sounding, sweet words of fantasy to avoid the fact, to say, I don't know. What does James say? If you read the opening to the Epistle of Yaakov, Epistle of James, Count it all joy when you have a trial. If you lack wisdom, there's nothing wrong with lacking knowledge. You say, I don't know. Go to the Lord. In the other video on Rob on the Rock, we looked at the passage about the Shabbat in Exodus 31. And it says, Leda'at. You shall keep the Sabbath. It says, Leda'at, to know. Ki ani Adonai mekadishchem. To know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. That's true knowledge of God. It says, strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. That's the end of Isaiah 40. We wait upon the Lord. Kovei Adonai yachlifu koach. Those who wait upon the Lord, yachlifu koach, they will have their strength renewed. Why is that? Because they love truth, they're not out there trying to invent fantasies or fairy tales to entertain themselves. They will say no to the fairy tale and say, I'm waiting for truth. And I don't know what it looks like right now, but I'll know it when I see it. And in the meantime, I'm not going to get distracted by falsity. Chovei Adonai yachlifu koach. Those who wait on the Lord, they will renew their strength. Well, here, the people are stretched. No doubt, 40 days is a long time. They're stretched. They're feeling it. And they're losing koach. They're losing their strength. Well, what are they going to do? Are they going to wait on the Lord, or are they going to invent religion? Guess what? They're inventing religion. Traditions of man, religions of man, works of the flesh. That's what they want to do. Why? Because they want to avoid the truth, which is lo yadanu. We don't know. So friends, I would just say, remember, there's going to be times where someone might ask you a question or you want to know something that you don't in fact know. And pause at that time and practice saying, I don't know. And be okay with it. Say, I don't know, and I'm interested in finding out. And this is what I'm going to do to try to learn something. I'm going to try to find something out, but I don't have the answer. I don't know. And you can go back and say, well, what do you know? That could have been a response here. They go to Aaron and say, lo yadanu, mehayalo. We don't know what happened to this Moses. Maybe Aaron could say, well, what do you know? Well, we know God has consistently shown up and delivered us, and we've been through all sorts of trials. We know that, that we were complaining about dying in the wilderness, but we haven't yet. So none of our complaints have really, manifested. It seems like all our worries have been in vain. Well, I guess we could know that. Well, okay, maybe here, what did Moses say? Well, we know he said he'd come back. He'd come back down the mountain. Well, do you suppose he snuck down the other side of the mountain and has abandoned us? No, I don't think so. I think he's still up on the mountain. He's just delaying coming down. That's what it says. Oh, well, do you think we could, maybe let's just wait then? Because he said he'd come back down. Can we do that? No, we need to make a new God. We need to make gods who will go before us. Yeah, so there's the gap here between the viewpoint of faith that trusts God and waits on him, Kovei Adonai, those who wait upon the Lord, and the viewpoint of those who are earthly minded and anxious and impatient and Sure, it's okay to be stretched and worn, to be tried. But in those trials is an exposure of the heart. What are the thoughts of the heart that come out of you? What comes out of your mouth when you're squeezed? Do you want to invent religion? Do you want to make up lies and entertain falsehood? Or do you want to say, I'm waiting on the Lord? So let's all choose to wait on the Lord. All right, friends. This has been a fun short video just on one verse here, Exodus 32:1, from this week's Torah portion, which is Parashat Tissa, which features the golden calf. All right, until next time.